Hi all, my name is Carrie Sedlak and I'm the Director of Fair Share CSA Coalition based in Madison, Wisconsin. Not one of the coasts, but close to the North Coast. And I'm one of the primary partners behind the CSA Innovation Network. For those of you that are just getting familiar with the network, the CSA Innovation Network, we're a national organization that generates and facilitates idea sharing across the US between CSA farmers and technical assistance providers. We recognize that many of you work in silos. Puns always intended here. We're a punny group, and perhaps relative isolation. Maybe you're a farmer, a CSA farmer, and you have monocropped fields around you. Perhaps you're a CSA technical assistance provider, and the next person you know that does similar work is 100 or several hundred, maybe even more miles away from you. So we understand that we have a need to learn from others in this space, to share our own successes and to ask questions of one another so that we can work smarter, better, and with more impact. And especially these days, we understand we thrive off of the collaboration and collegiality between like minds in this space. So with that, I'd like to welcome you here today for our very first CSA Ideas Lab. Corinna Bench and some of the other partners brainstormed this name, and we think it's pretty fun. So this is a monthly presentation, training, discussion series it's purposefully a little bit loose because we expect that with each topic that we have come through the CSA Ideas Lab, it'll have a little bit of a different shape how we present the information. But our biggest goal is for it to be interactive and for it to be a space that we can share and learn from one another. Corinna, would you mind changing to the next slide, please?
Sure.
Our first Ideas Lab is sure to yield in a really engaging discussion. It's about a topic that we all talk about each and every year, but perhaps no more so than this year, as we have this unprecedented nature of incredible CSA signups, sellouts, beyond sellouts, in light of or as a result of COVID-19. And it's happening across the country. It's something that we're really thinking about. And I know everyone's really busy right now, and it's like, whoa, it seems like it's so far away, CSA early bird sign up season, but wow, it's really actually like right there around the corner. So we want to know, how do we most effectively encourage current CSA members to return for another year and to do so before the new year even begins? We are fortunate to have two experts on this topic joining us today. Corinna Bench and Tessa DeMaster. Corinna's from My Digital Farmer and Tessa is from Willowhaven Farm. They're going to start us off by sharing knowledge that they've learned in this space and providing us with tips on how to find success with early bird signups. After they present, we're going to have a Q&A section for about 15 minutes and then breakout rooms where you'll get to talk with one another for about 15 minutes. And then we'll have a few minutes of wrap up at the very end of our discussion, which you'll want to stay for because you're going to hear about some really exciting resources that are coming through the Innovation Network, the CSA Innovation Network, specifically related to a national marketing campaign. And Corinna is going to have a bonus worksheet for you. Without further ado, I'm going to kick things off here with Corinna, who's really going to kick things off. And if you are in the CSA world, it's really, you're hard pressed not to have heard of Corinna. We are so delighted to have her joining us today. She's a farmer herself. She's the co-owner of Shared Legacy Farms in Elmore, Ohio, which is northwestern Ohio near Toledo. And she is, really a household name in our arena for the powerful CSA marketing strategies that she shares with CSA farmers across the states through her marketing consultant business and podcast, My Digital Farmer. Corinna is also one of the main planning partners involved in the CSA Innovation Network. We're so excited to have her expertise within the network, and we're thrilled to have you kicking off this series, Corinna. So with that, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thanks for having me. Welcome everyone who's on the call. Welcome to my living room. My children just walked into the kitchen, so they may photobomb in the background, although I've told them not to, so I can see my life behind me. I'm glad you're here. Today we're talking about how to get CSA members to renew, specifically when you want them to. And I have about a probably 15-minute presentation here on the front end that I'm going to go through, and then Tessa is going to share some really awesome insights as well from her story. As Carrie just said, this has been a very a marker year for CSAs. And while COVID has definitely delivered a lot of challenges for farmers, it's also presented the CSA space with a huge opportunity. And I know that this has been a big like focus for me. I have a lot of new members this year that joined because of this feeling of scarcity from COVID, and I want to make sure that they have a really good experience and that I don't lose them out the back door at the end of the season. I don't want it to be where they just join for a year and then they're like, oh, I'm not going to do it next time because it's not really something that I need. So are there some mechanisms or some things that we can implement here towards the end of the season to make it more likely that especially those people who are new to our system are going to be more likely to say, I'm going to give it another year. I'm going to give this another go. So you might be secretly wondering, if you're a CSA farmer like I am, how do I get all of those new CSA customers to come back? Now you're probably thinking about the ones that have been in your pipeline for a while too. We don't want to discount them. Those people matter as well, but it's the new people that we're really focused on when it comes to trying to get people to sign up. Those are the ones we worry about that might leave our fold and don't give it enough time. I have found that with my CSA, it's about a 2 to 3 year like learning curve for someone to really feel like they've mastered how CSA works. And so I'm always kind of coaching my newbies, like, hey, don't give up. Like if you're feeling discouraged, don't just give up and say this isn't working for me. You've got to give it some time in order for you to feel like you're a master. And so some of that is just kind of some pre-framing, but I really want to make sure those people are having a good, successful experience. So in today's webinar, my goal is to show you how to help farmers, or if you're a CSA farmer, I want to show you how to shift from the kind of open-ended buy any time model into the CSA to that short-term launch style formula, so that you as a farmer can get people to make a decision to sign up for your CSA again when you need them to. All right. So this is about training decisiveness. Like you probably have a whole bunch of people who eventually want to join your CSA again. Maybe they've thought about it. They're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. But maybe they're not going to sign up. If you don't like force the issue, they wouldn't sign up until April. And we want you to figure out a way to get them to sign up when you want them to, which is ideally at the end of your season. So for us, in our case, that's like end of October. Like I want to know who's coming back before I go into my winter break. So that's the goal today, is to kind of show you that. Now you're in the right place for this webinar if you're a CSA farmer who wants that peace of mind of knowing how many people are coming back next time around, ideally before Christmas. You're also in the right place if you're a TA provider that's supporting your CSA farms and you want to maybe share this strategy with them, a strategy that's going to help them solidify their customer base and ultimately drive financial security. I mean, that's one of the great parts of getting the CSA model in general, but getting these people to sign up early is like you walk into Christmas with a totally different mindset if you have a lot of people locked in. So I want you, first of all, I want to share who I am a little bit if you don't know who I am. I am a farmer at Shared Legacy Farms out in Elmore, Ohio. We've been doing a CSA for 13 years. Our CSA has about 425 members and we only run for 18 weeks out of the year. That is like 80% of our business. And we have a little bit of stuff going on in the background, a few restaurants and so forth, but this is our bread and butter. This is where we focus all of our attention. And we have an 80% retention rate we have for the last 3 years, but it wasn't always that way. I spent our first 9 years not knowing what I was doing. I did not go to marketing school. I was just kind of along for the ride with my husband, who's the farmer and production guy. And I struggled trying to figure out how to get people to sign up for CSA. I just had no clue. And I got so frustrated with it. At the end of our season, we'd get maybe 60% of our people to come back. And when you've got 400 people in your CSA, that's a lot of people to replace. And I was just running out of ideas, and I would spend 4 months freaking out and feeling frustrated because I'm like, this is not my thing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I finally just decided I needed to figure this out. And so I started to be a little more intentional about training myself in marketing. I started studying social media marketing specifically, and then fell into a lot of rabbit holes, started following podcasters and other digital marketers, and began to hear some of the basic tenets of marketing, the fundamentals, but also learning some digital marketing strategies that worked in the, kind of in the digital marketing space. And I thought, well, can I use that for a product like a CSA? And I just thought, well, heck, I don't know. I'm just going to try it because I don't know anything else to do. and it started working like gangbusters. So this is sort of my claim to fame, that in years 1 through 8, our retention rate was around 61% before I kind of started learning about these digital marketing strategies and implementing them, one of which I'm going to share with you today. That very same year that I started implementing them, we went to a 79% retention rate. So I did this launch style that I'm going to share with you today, and I was blown away. Literally couldn't believe it. And I was floored when I saw, my phone kept dinging as people were purchasing things through my store on that first day that I opened up the store. So I just want you to imagine what life could be like if you could get 79 to 80% of your members to financially commit to you before Thanksgiving this year. I just try to imagine, and like, if you want to write in the chat, like, how would that change your life? I mean, what would be the biggest benefit for you? Put that in the chat, because I'm kind of curious. I know for me, like, we automatically think about the financial security, but it's more than that, isn't it? It's more than just, oh, I'm going to have that money to be able to use on the front end of the season. It's the peace of mind. It's like this, your brain just doesn't have to work as hard to like think about, how am I going to do this? So I don't know if there are answers coming up in the chat, but I just want you to imagine, how would your life change if you had a higher percentage of people actually giving you money and saying, I'm definitely coming back. So put that in the chat if you want. I'm going to keep moving, but I'll be curious to see what you write. So let's talk about, how does this work? And this is where I'm going to get into the meat of the presentation. And I'm going to share with you 3 key principles to guide the building of an early bird campaign. Now, I can't go into like the nitty gritty, absolute step-by-step process. I actually have a course that does that I'll be releasing in about 4 weeks. But this is like the big overview, and I think you can get a lot from this conversation today. And I want to kind of share with you the first principle, which I think is a really, really huge one. So the first principle is that you need to learn how to build an irresistible CSA offer. Now, I didn't even know what that meant when I first heard an offer. I'm like, what do you mean build an offer? Well, in marketing, when you're selling something, when you build an offer, it's like you're presenting to your potential customer, this is what you're going to get for this price. And it doesn't just include like the specific description of your product, like, oh, you're going to get 18 weeks of vegetables that are certified organic. It includes like the benefits. Like, you want to go deeper and talk about, how is that product going to transform them? You want to kind of word that in your offer. Why does it matter? What's the before and after state of your customer? Like, what's their life like before they try your product, and what's it going to be like after they've joined your CSA for a few years and they're really getting into it? And you want to try and explain that as part of your offer. This is what you are getting, and it's not just the thing itself, it's the feeling words, it's the life change. Okay, so we want to talk about that kind of stuff when we build our offer. But we can also add in other features and benefits, like we have a CSA group, for instance, that is a private Facebook group that is so powerful. It's really the engine that helps people learn how to use their food and drives the life change. And so I put that into my offer. Okay, so that's not vegetables, but it's part of the offer. Do you see the difference? So building an irresistible offer means kind of figuring out what can come with this package beyond just the vegetables. Is it access to you as the farmer? Is it connection? Is it certain specific farm events? Like, what are all those different things that are going to help them get to the finish line? It also includes the price. But most important, it includes something called a bonus. When you're doing an early bird launch, this is something that you offer to people for a very short amount of time. So you create this offer, it's only live for like 2 weeks. And in order to get people to jump on that offer, as opposed to the one you have open-ended all year long, you need to include a bonus. And we can talk more about that during Q&A time and what that could look like. But here's an example of a bonus that we included last year. I turned to my CSA members in mid-October, actually early October, and I said, hey guys, you have 2 weeks to renew at such and such rate. Here's what comes with your membership. Here's the offer. And if you sign up by this day, you're going to get this voucher in order to be able to purchase a free pint of ice cream from Knieven Creamery, which was a new company that we were working with that year. So it was kind of a way to launch that relationship, or a half gallon of their milk. And so people went crazy about the idea of getting free ice cream. This cost me absolutely nothing, because I negotiated this kind of relationship with Knieven Creamery. I said, hey, in return for getting access to my entire kind of customer base as being a part of one of our farm now, Would you be willing to do this for us? And they said, yeah, we'll give you a free voucher to anyone who signs up for your CSA early, even if they don't get our milk share. And so that was a powerful bonus. I could say, this bonus goes away, you got to sign up. So figuring out an irresistible offer is really key. Now I want to make sure I make this point. The CSA customer already knows your product. If they're a returning customer, they've tried it before. They know if they like it or not. In fact, they probably already in the back of their mind know if they're going to do it again. They just need a little incentive to get them to do it now, or whenever you've decided that you want them to do it. And so that's what the power of this bonus is. And I have found that it's often the bonus that drives the decision. All right, core principle number 2 is that you need to build in some scarcity into your offer. So what can you limit within your offer time to help them feel the burn? All right, so here's some ideas to help you kind of see what I mean by this. So as I'm building my offer, and I'm telling people about, here's the thing that's only gonna be around for 2 weeks, I might limit the bonus. I might say, well, I only have 200 of these vouchers. So the first 200 people are gonna get the bonus. I might use a deadline where I say this sign up, or the early bird sign up period is only 10 days long or only 7 days long. You can make it as short as long as you want. The shorter, the better, I have found. So I recommend between 7 and 10 days is a good period for an early bird launch. If you make it 4 to 5 weeks, there just isn't that urgency. People kind of forget about it, and it's exhausting for you to try and keep up the energy of this launch period. Another way that you can do it is to limit the quantity that you might have of one of your share types at that particular price. Like we have an egg share, we only have 100 of them. We have 400 members in our CSA, way more than 100 people want that egg share. So I talk about how I only have 100 of them. The first 100 that sign up are gonna get them, and it drives everyone to show up at 8 a.m. on the first day because they want that egg share. Okay, so if you have a limited quantity of something, or maybe you conjure up a fake limited quantity, okay, and you can always add more in like 3 months later, that can be really effective. All right, core principle number 3 that I wanted to highlight, if I was gonna pick out 3 things to talk about today, it would be to hype up your offer in advance. So we don't just spring this on people like the day before we're gonna open it up. We talk about it, we tease it. And this concept in marketing is called the pre-launch period. And it's usually about 5 to 10 days long. It happens before you officially open the doors to your offer, where you open up the cart. So I want you to imagine a plane taking off a runway. If you were going to your local airport, your plane needs a long stretch of runway in order to get off the ground. And it's the same way with an offer like this that's a high ticket offer that costs a lot of money. We kind of need to give people enough time to know what the offer is, to get them excited, to tease out the scarcity elements so that they are like chomping at the bit and like ravenous, like just cannot wait to get on to your website the day that it opens. I have people that like sit by their computers and wait for the 8 a.m. start time so they can be one of the first 10 people to buy, right? So we get that sort of anxiety, and like we create that when we do a good job of building a runway. Can you hear my cat? So we want people to know that something is coming. And so here's some examples of the ways that I do that with my CSA members. I use what I call pre-launch emails. These are pre-written emails that I write in advance, and I know when I'm going to send them out. And they just start to hint about a special offer. I start to talk about, hey, early bird is coming. We're doing something a little different this year. There's going to be a great bonus. You're only going to have this much time. Like there's several little emails that drip it out in pieces, and those different pieces that I want to highlight, maybe it's the bonus, maybe it's the scarcity element, those get individual emails to kind of tease up the offer and ratchet up the energy level. I'm also using my Facebook group where I'm talking about some of the same elements on the same day as I might release the email. I talk about it in a social post to kind of just get them even more frenzied so that there's alignment there as well. So those are kind of the 3 core principles that you want to learn. You need to master, like, how do I build a really compelling offer that's absolutely irresistible? You need to give them a reason to buy now, and that offer needs to be so good. It needs to be the best offer of the year. Okay, you can create other offers later if you want to try and do another kind of push to get people to buy. You can do another launch to the big wide world of the public, right? To try and get them to buy. Your early bird offer has to be the best offer. It has to have the best bonus. It has to be so clear that when your customers see it, they're like, oh my God, this is, I got to do it because this is the only time that it's going to be this good. All right. So that is super huge. And it's also really important to make sure that we create a plan, that we offer, that we hype up that offer in advance, we communicate it well as well, and that we have some kind of scarcity involved. All right. So my challenge to you is to try an early bird sign up. And I want you to think about doing it this fall or before you end this season. That is the ideal time to do an early bird, not to wait until, you know, February or March. You want to grab them while they're still thinking about it, while they're still in your CSA, while they're still tasting your produce before Christmas hits. So the basic outline here is to set the dates, to know like when is my cart going to open? When does the offer go live? When does it close? When does the offer go away and they can't get it again? And then when am I going to start to pre-launch? Like when is that day? Those are kind of the key things that you do first. Then you need to figure out what is my offer going to be and what is that killer bonus. And maybe you have to go and arrange that bonus. Maybe you have to build that bonus. Maybe it's a digital bonus of some sort. Then you want to get a rough idea of what your hype plan, like what are the 2 emails going to say? Or like, what am I going to talk about mostly in my social posts to my crowd? And then you actually launch the campaign and then you watch the shares fly. And it's so invigorating when you see like, you know, 50, 60 people coming in the first hour. It just kind of can blow you away. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's all I had to do was create scarcity and create a great offer. I've seen this work now 3 years in a row for us consistently. We've been at 79 to 81% of people signing up, renewing within those 10 days before we hit the end of October. So remember that your people want to stand behind you. They've been with you for a year or 2 or 3. They love you, okay? They're probably going to buy from you. They want to support you. You as the guide in this marketing story, like you need to tell them how to support you. You need to tell them what you need from them. So if you need them to buy now, because that's how it's going to help you, then create an offer that's going to compel them to do that. And don't be shy about it. Be confident that you have a great product. And this is one of the ways that you can do that. All right, so I want to make you aware before I move on to Tessa and introduce Tessa to you, that I do have a great podcast resource. If you're kind of struggling, like, well, what could a great bonus be? Episode 13 of the My Digital Farmer podcast, which you can access here if you just go to that link, we'll talk you through a ton of examples of what bonuses might be and what to think through. And then at the end of today's webinar, we're going to drop the link in the chat at the very end when you come back from the breakout rooms, where I'll share the link for this worksheet that you can use to kind of go through that process of picking out a bonus for yourself, because the bonus is a really huge part. So I want to introduce Tessa DeMaster from Willowhaven Farm out in Pennsylvania. And Tessa's going to kind of share how she has used this model for her farm. Hi, Tessa. How's it going?
Hello. Good. Thank you.
Good. It's all you.
All right. So I've been listening to Corinna Bench since she started popping up in a Facebook group for CSA farmers. And she started the CSA marketing Facebook group that I joined right away with about 10 other people in 2017. So I've been listening to her ideas for a while and just putting little things into place as I could. And this last year, I implemented the early bird CSA launch, and I think I did something, I took a step the year before in doing it, but this time I spent more time building it and made it better. But I had to tweak it for my situation, which is probably what most farmers are going to have to do, because our CSA runs from June to October. We do 20 weeks, then we do a fall extended CSA for 6 weeks after that. And this year we might even have a winter one that runs into February. So there's a couple other products that I have to deal with and kind of juggle. We're also a Harvey farm. And so we have the option to auto renew our members. And that takes a lot of communication with those members, especially new ones, so that they are not surprised. And I really struggled and really thought really hard last year about how to do an early bird launch and do the auto renew at the same time, and how to work those two pieces together. So I can describe that. And another thing that I think about all season long and think about really hard is, how can I make the bonus? How can I make this the best offer? And it takes a lot of thinking and exploring and talking to, like Corinna said, your vendors and the other resources that you have to find something that will really, really appeal to your members. And, I think you can get better with practice. So last year I put some things in. We have a side business with another partner that's a cheese vendor with the dairy from our farm and our pastures, and he's making artisan cheese. So I offered that as a bonus, and people actually haven't gotten that bonus yet. We're working on getting it out to them, and but hopefully that will remind them, hey, yeah, I'm getting this because it was part of my early bird CSA sign up, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do next year. So when I communicate with my people this time, hey, I know you've waited a while for this early bird offer for your reward for signing up. I'm also going to say, and you're not going to be able to wait to see what I'm going to unveil for this year's early bird CSA. So I'm going to spin it, even though you had to wait a long time. It's going to, the message has to be, there's going to be another really cool offer this coming year. So another really popular thing that has worked for us in the past and every season is offering a pay in full bonus, because we, with as being a Harvey farm, we are kind of locked into some of their payment systems, which is 25% as a down payment, and then 25% not till June, and then throughout the season. And different farms have different ways of doing it, but we can get a shot in the arm early on when we offer, hey, we'll give you $25 of farm credit to buy extra products from us during the season if you give us all the money up front by this date. So that's a really powerful bonus. I spin it as a bonus for our tribe as well. So last year, we did have a 69% retention rate. So we're getting close to 70, which I'm really happy about. This year, we're gonna have to work just as hard to get all these new people. So we were like 150 members last year, and we are close to 400 this year. We had planned to expand the farm anyway, and I wasn't sure exactly how we were gonna fill those members, but COVID hit and it was not a problem. So I was really happy that we were actually had the ability to absorb so many new members, because all the other CSAs were closed by that time, and that gave our community an opportunity to be more secure about their food. So that was definitely a great thing for our food community. So the emails that I sent out was not too many, and I'm going to do more because I can take the ones that I used last year, beef them up, and put a couple more new ones in. But I just introed, my early bird offer, which was my runway and the offer, and then the a third email, which was the bonuses, and then the fourth email was signups are open, and then I think I let it just sit, and I think I used some other mechanisms to let people know that it was still open. I didn't find in my going back and looking at things that I had a deadline reminder, which and I'm going to make sure that I have that this year. The cart is closed and this is the last day to sign up for all this. Then the second part of it for me was in December to January is when I talked to my people about auto renew. And what I did was I promised everyone during that first sequence of emails when I was talking about the early bird offer, I told everyone that if you were going to auto renew, you could also get all these offers. you'd automatically be signed up for the bonuses. So they didn't have to even work hard to do that. That was my way of letting people know that that I really valued the renewal and the easy renewal process that we offered, and loved for them to take advantage of that. So that's kind of how I run it, how I ran it. I'm going to run it similarly this year, and we'll see how it goes.
Great. Thanks, Tessa, for sharing your experience and successes in this area and specific tips. They're really, really helpful. I'm seeing a couple questions pop up in the chat just based off of what Corinna and Tessa have already been talking about. So we're going to transition into our Q&A section, and we'll be doing a combination of pulling some questions from the chat and then also from questions that folks asked in the registration form. We're going to start off just because a couple people have asked this in the chat function here. They're wondering, how does this affect your accounting? Katie Jansen and Rebecca Henderson are wondering, they're thinking, we would like to do this, but it's showing all of their income in 2020. It would be showing their income in 2020 versus 2021. What do you do from an accounting standpoint to manage this?
All right, I'm going to jump in and answer that. That is totally a great question, and it's one that I wrestled with. We didn't want to get, an entire year's income showing up, on that tax year, and we'd have basically 2 years of that would just skew our income levels, right? So this was a problem for us when we started this journey, because there wasn't a software system that allowed me to do that very well. And so what I did initially is we used WooCommerce, and I set the store for it to be invoice only. So they only had to sign up and enter their information. They didn't actually pay online. And then they had to send in their checks, and their checks were post dated. So I needed that deposit check for January 1st of that next year. And I would just hold those checks, and then I would cash them the second day of the next year. And that's still how I do it. Now I've switched to Local Line as an online tool, partly because they have the ability to turn off the credit card feature and make it just invoice only. So once we hit CSA season, I will, create a catalog where that's the only product that's in there, and then I can turn off that payment feature, and we won't have the credit card thing running. And I'll just be asking people to mail me your checks. So that's how we got around that little glitch.
For us, I allowed people in November to sign up and make changes and take advantage of the early bird offer. But all my auto renews were happening on January 10th. Mm-hmm. So that at least split up my members. And so it wasn't totally skewed.
Is that what Harvey does? It automatically sets that day? You don't control that, Tessa?
You do control it. You do set that date. You could set it for whenever you wanted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also,
so you tell them to go and click the auto renew button way before January 10th.
Yep.
But it doesn't pull the money until January 10th.
Right.
Got it.
And one other tip in the chat there from Crossroads Community Farm said they also just accepted the hit of a lot of extra income, and it normalized in future years.
It does. Yeah, you just have to take it 1 year. You're right.
Let's see, also a question that came in earlier. Could you give some examples, Corinna, of fake limited quantity?
So the one that came to mind, which was unintentional for us, is that we like I told you in the presentation, we had an egg share. We only had 100 eggs that were available, and so that's what I sold. And I had a whole bunch of people going to that website on the first day, and other people not wanting the egg share also going that day as well. But then 3 months later, my egg producers, because I buy in the eggs from Weber Ranch, which is a partner ranch nearby, let us know, oh my gosh, we're swimming in eggs because of COVID hitting, for example, and they couldn't move them to their restaurants. And they said, we've got a bunch of extra eggs that we could sell. And so then I was able to kind of come in and say, oh, well, actually now I do have extra egg shares. I have 40 more. And I was able to, sell those very quickly. But, on the front end, when I didn't know that, there were there was this legitimate, like, I don't have enough, there's scarcity here. And so when people see there's only 100 spots, and when it says sold out, it's sold out, like that creates this element of scarcity. So you could kind of think through, like, is there a product that I know is really powerful and irresistible to my members, and I could offer that. And then knowing that maybe down the line, if I'm going to have extra, I can open those up later. So you got to be careful about that though a little bit, because people will get wise if you keep doing it, and then they're like, oh, this isn't really a scarce resource, because they always open up more egg shares. So that's something to think about.
A few people wrote into on their registration forms a question of this variety. How do you time an early bird sign up campaign when you're also selling fall shares and holiday shares?
Tessa, you want to answer that? Because I know you're...
So what I did last year was I started selling the fall shares, and then as soon as I was done and the fall share season had started, then that's when I did my early bird launch. So I didn't do it like the last 2 weeks of my summer season like Corinna does. I did it the first 2 weeks of my fall season, because I was done talking about the fall season because it had started. So that's what I chose to do. That way, those were kind of back to back, but they didn't affect everybody. That was my idea.
Yeah. I think it's important too to just say that the timing of when you do this, you can play around with it and experiment. It's really going to depend on the unique situation that you have on your farm. I think though that you should really try to do, like, early bird is called early bird because you're getting them to do it before, like, in my opinion, before the, well before the next year starts. Not, oh, let me know in April, not like 6 weeks before I start, but like, let me know now, like the end of the year, so that I can make plans. So if you can try to do one before Christmas, because people aren't thinking, like, Christmas, everyone's spending their money on presents. So like, we want to try and hit them with this, commitment, financial commitment before then.
When I was thinking about timing of doing this last year, I was thinking about Thanksgiving and thinking about Christmas, and, saying, I really got to do this at the beginning of November at the latest, because after that, people's attention for 6 weeks is on the holidays. So yeah. I think that's kind of your last really good opportunity.
Yep.
Question just coming in here through the chat. What are your thoughts on combining auto renew with early bird?
Right. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
I kind of had a gap. So I did those 2 weeks in November for really talking about my early bird. And then I basically kind of left the cart open, but I wasn't talking about it at all through November and December. And really, people weren't thinking about it either. And then I started talking about it again in December and really hitting, explaining what auto renew was and how exactly it was going to work, so that no one was surprised, because people hate that. Oh no, you just dinged my credit card for a season of vegetables. I wasn't ready for that. So it takes a lot of really good communication. And then I told people the dates in January. I had, for my early bird renewal, I had 5 emails. For my auto renew sequence, I had 8.
So Tessa, sorry, the person just clarified, and they said that they said actually the auto renew is the early bird.
Okay, and you definitely could combine them. You just have to make sure that your communication about how auto renew works is really clear. And I would love to have my auto renewal in November, but my members for 10 years have expected it to be in January, and I'm not sure that I can. I would have to really do some research to find out if people would be okay with me moving it to the fall. But I made sure that it's just about communication. I think making sure that people know that auto renew is your early bird, and say you'll get all these bonuses when that happens. They'll be automatically signed up. And that's what I said to my members.
And perhaps maybe that's an answer to another question. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions here before we move into the breakout rooms. someone asked on the registration form to include retention ideas for year-round multi-farm CSAs as well, and maybe that could be one of the strategies that auto renew as an early bird. Do you two have any other suggestions there?
Well, this is definitely tricky. If you're one of those farms that's pretty much running like all season long, you might have customers that are joining that only join for like spring and fall, but not the summer. Maybe it's just spring and summer, but not the fall. And so you can feel like you're selling and launching like all the time, and that can get exhausting. There's a couple things to maybe think through here, like when you imagine like who is your ideal customer. If you're one of those kinds of farms, your ideal best customer, the ones you want to clone and make more and more of, is the one that is a member of every single one of those seasons. And so to try and attract more of those people or take good care of those people, you could consider making a serious early bird launch for the entire year, for that whole package, and then that's kind of like its own thing. And then, for the other ones, you could create like smaller launches that aren't quite as big of a deal. Or maybe you have like another really popular bundle maybe it's the spring and the summer bundle is another really popular one. You do kind of a more focused launch for that kind of package deal as well. But what you want to remember is that your best package or your best product suite bundle needs to have the best bonus. So really think through, like, what is that ideal customer? What's that particular offer look like? Do you have any other comments on that, Annika? Not Annika. Oh my God, I just called you by your daughter, Tessa.
The other consideration is just, when do you need, when is the best time for you financially as a farm to get that, that extra financial push, and create your offer around that time and make it the best one.
Great, thanks all. Thanks for your questions, everybody, and thanks for your answers, Tessa and Corinna. We are gonna have a little bit more time actually to ask questions, but of one another within the whole group here. So we're gonna go into breakout rooms for the next 10 minutes here. Hi folks, welcome back. Hope you had a good time over in your breakout session rooms. Looks like it was a good discussion. Sorry if it took you out of the middle of a good Q&A session with one another. Hopefully you got to exchange names and email addresses with each other so you can follow up with one another later on. We're just gonna wrap up here. Corinna graciously offered to stay for up to 10 minutes after our conversation, so if folks have additional questions, you can feel free to ask them right after we do this little wrap up piece. And we'll continue recording that too, so if you have to boogie, you can take a look at the recording that will be sent out through an email that we're going to be sending at the end of our presentation later on today. That'll have a recording to the webinar. Again, we're all the way through Corinna's additional Q&A session. Also, it'll have a link to the evaluation, which my colleague Claire has kindly offered to pop into the chat box. Claire, it's in that document that you are in. If folks wouldn't mind, it would be great. It's a really short evaluation. It's just 3 minutes long. It would be really helpful for us to know what you thought of today's session, what ideas you have for sessions coming up. Also, Claire put in there an additional link. This is the My Digital Farmer bonus sheet, which Corinna actually, if you want to reintroduce that really fast, that would be awesome. Just a reminder for folks.
Yeah, this goes along with episode 13 of the podcast that I talked about earlier from the My Digital Farmer podcast. And so if you want a worksheet to help you work through how to find your perfect bonus for your offer, this is going to help you do that. So you don't necessarily need to listen to the podcast, but I think it helps. If you want to listen to that podcast, go to mydigitalfarmer.com/13, and then it'll take you to the link. You can find the link there and listen to it. But just grab this worksheet, print it out, and I don't know, spend 30 minutes with it to come up with some ideas for a bonus. The bonus is what sells the offer, so you really need to spend some time brainstorming that.
Thanks, Corinna. Thanks so much for offering that.
Yeah.
And Claire did just put the link to the evaluation in there. Again, it just takes 3 minutes, and it'd be super helpful for us to make sure that these sessions remain really relevant for you all, and just exactly what you want to be learning about and talking about with one another. Also, just feel free to mark on your calendar. We have our next session lined up of the CSA Ideas Lab. It will be on September 24th. The topic will be utilizing CSA as a vehicle for food access. So, if you've thought thought about offering a low-income CSA access program, food access program, or you're running one currently and have questions about how to improve it, or just want to share, information out about how your program has been running, this session is the session for you. It's also very pertinent now in the era of COVID, right? We have many, many more households that are unfortunately having difficulty accessing fresh food, affording it, getting it in a safe manner, and CSA has a lot of potential to be an answer for folks. So September 24th, same time, we're going to be doing it at 2 to 3 Eastern. And we talked about this national marketing campaign. So the CSA Innovation Network is really super excited to be putting together essentially a version of Got Milk, but for CSA, that will be broadcasting across the entire US for the 2021 season. And also we will have the messaging and graphics dialed in enough to be sharing those pieces with you all actually for the for the early bird sign up campaign season. So we expect to have these ready by October, late October, early November. So you can, if you wish, incorporate some of this messaging or these graphics into your campaign. So stay tuned on that front. We're really excited. We're working with a marketing firm called Firebrand Collaborative, and we are just thrilled to see where it's going and heading. And with that, folks, feel free to sign off if you haven't already, and if you don't have any additional questions. But if you would like to stay on the line, Corinna again has offered to stay, and Tessa, I think maybe can also stay too to answer additional questions. And thanks so much for joining us for the maiden voyage, so to speak, of the CSA Ideas Lab. It's been great to see you all. Okay, while folks figure out if they're coming or going and putting their questions in the chat box, Corinna, I'll ask a question that was from the registration forms, which was, what thoughts do you have about early bird signups in a year that you're going to be, adding I guess doing a decent price increase on your shares?
Yeah, so if that is something that's going to be happening, I think that the way for that to be successful is to start kind of teasing that that's coming now, as opposed to dropping it on them when you unveil your offer. So I guess there's two things that come to mind. So my first thought is like that sort of messaging should start happening now, and you can begin to talk about it in your newsletter. Maybe you can do a Facebook Live. If you have a Facebook group, just be hinting at the reason why you might need to be raising prices, or heads up, this is coming, so that there's time for people to get used to that idea. Another kind of way that you could think about that or justifying that price increase is if you make your offer so stinking awesome, then it kind of takes the hit off of the higher price. So if your bonus has perceived value, extra perceived value, then you can justify that increase. So we actually did that 2 years ago. We raised the price of our CSA, and we had gotten to a point there where the Facebook group had become so incredibly valuable that it's now its own product, where people can just join my Facebook group for just a fee. There are people in our community that just want to have access to my foodie community and the ideas and the trainings that are going on in there. And because that had so much value, I kind of felt justified in raising the price a little bit and really talking about that element of the offer and being like, hey, this is such an important part of the formula for success of your CSA. I have, a paid person that's like in charge of that group now, and that's her job. And so, there was some justification behind that. And I knew that a lot of my customers were actually using that service, but it doesn't have to be that. If there's another feature that you can add, maybe like part of your offer, this was actually Tessa's idea that she shared with me. Part of your offer could be that you're going to get 10% off of anything that you buy in our online store. Next season, if you're a CSA member, you're going to get a coupon code. And wow, now that could be super valuable. And now you're also raising your price a certain amount to kind of help maybe offset that. Somebody isn't going to be as upset when they see that you've added this really valuable thing to your offer. Does that make sense? So there's a couple of thoughts there to help you.
Thanks, Corinna. Another question coming in here from Kentucky. What type of offer would you suggest if you were to entice members in signing up for multiple seasons at one time?
Tessa, are you still on the call, or did she leave? No. Okay. Because I know that she has multiple seasons.
She's here. She's here. She just needed to unmute.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
What
are your thoughts there before I answer?
Well, one of the big thoughts is just if you're going to target a whole year, multiple seasons, is to bundle it and give, a small discount on all of it altogether, and creating, an annual membership that's, a little bit less than if they joined each season, everybody does that. If you buy a whole year, or it's less than paying monthly.
Yeah. I think you can also think about, like, what are the things that your customer finds really, really, really valuable? So that kind of a customer who's bought into your farm, like, why are they buying from you? Like, why are they supporting the CSA? And in many cases, it's because they care about you as the farmer. They care about your family. They care about local food, right? There's a deeper story that's driving that buying decision. So maybe one suggestion that comes to mind that I've heard other people do is like having providing them with greater access to you as the farmer. So maybe, if this is a smaller number of people that might go for this, like under 20, you could offer something like private dinner with the farm family, or like a private, a whiskey tasting event at one of our partner restaurants, or something like that, where there's something that only exclusive access people get to. So it's almost like a VIP program. So if you were going to create a VIP package for your people, what kinds of things could you put in there? So think about events, think about access to you, think about a discount on the overall price, special perks of buying in your store. I mean, you can put multiple things in your offer. It doesn't just have to be one thing. It could be a digital file. Like, I know one year we gave, the bonus was a digital file of all of the recipes that have been shared in our private Facebook group by our members. It was like a 90-page document. Everybody wanted that because it was like a portfolio of the year, like a scrapbook. I didn't do it the second year because it just didn't have the same energy, in my opinion. But the first year, people were like crazy for that. So that could be something. It took me like 5 hours to put together, but if that's what motivates people to buy now, like, I'll spend $5 hours making that asset. So just kind of brainstorm. That bonus worksheet that I shared with you and the podcast episode gives very specific examples of different kinds of bonuses. And I think listening to that will really help you.
And thank you both. Those are really good. I like seeing the brainstorming on the fly. You've got such good suggestions. I mean, it's not on the fly. It's the stuff you think about all the time, but it's just wonderful to see these questions come from different angles. So we have time for one more question, and I think we'll go with this one. I think it's been somewhat addressed, but I think if either of you have anything else you wanted to offer in this space, do you allow people to pay in payments?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do. I encourage people. I tell people, I always feel like it's my job to be the guide in the marketing journey and to tell my customer what to do next and get rid of the confusion, because there's a lot of confusion about CSA buying process. So I try to step by step them, and I tell them what I want. Like, this is what I want you to do. I want you to pay me in full, or pay half your deposit by January, second half's due June. But if you can't, I'll also take other forms of payment. You can spread it out, how you need, but you need to give me some kind of good faith investment on the front end. That's kind of how I word it. We also have like a scholarship fund. So if I can sense that there's an issue, like, I make that known to them, like, hey, we have a scholarship fund that's generated by our community every year to help pay for people who are in financial need. So yeah, but yes.
Thanks. And Tessa, anything you wanted to say on that point? It's okay.
Nothing really to add. We follow the Harvey payment plan, so that's right. How our farm works.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that reminder. Awesome. Well, thanks all for staying on the line and for just joining us during your Wednesday. And I'm having trouble identifying where I am in time these days, what month, what day of the week. Maybe you can feel that too. Anyhow, thanks so much for joining us this day in August, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.
Corinna and Tessa, take good care.